All right. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Scott McNamara with What's New in Adaptive Physical Education, and this is my first post since finishing my dissertation, or at least recording one. A lot has happened in the last month for me, so I thought I would do kind of a one-shot with just me, which I haven't done in quite some time. I want to talk a little bit about where I'm at now, the dissertation process, and also talk a little bit about my dissertation in general. As most of you know, I was living in Texas, finishing my PhD at Texas Women's University. I got a job at the University of Northern Iowa, and I made the move over the weekend, and I am currently just got in. I'm getting my office. It's very exciting. It's very beautiful here. And I'm getting to know some of the staff. And next week I go through orientation, and the week after that I start teaching. So I'm very happy. I have a practicum I'll be running, and I foresee continuing to do these presentations and such. So that's all going really well. Like I said, I finished my dissertation and defended it, and the way that process was a really humbling experience for me. I had 4 amazing committee members, including Dr. Dillon, who was my dissertation chair. And I worked really closely with everyone, and this is over a year process of working on my dissertation, really kind of like a year and a half of pulling all the resources together and coming up with kind of like, hey, what do I want to do and why do I want to do it, and putting a lot of time into it. And I think it's kind of cool because this podcast has been a big part of like why I wanted to do something like this. The podcast has allowed me to interact with so many people and get so many perspectives, and also give me a lot of different opportunities the last few years, and it just seems to be continuing, and it's been kind of amazing to me, and just so nice that people actually are listening and such, and it's really motivated me. And so my research that I ended up doing with my dissertation is, I think that these podcasts have the opportunity or the ability to be a really impactful tool to promote our field. If you're a regular listener, you know that a common thing in the discussions is that we're overlooked. And I think these podcasts can be a way to kind of give information quickly and concisely also in a way that a non-threatening way. So my dissertation was on creating podcasts for special ed administrators in the state of Texas on APE concepts. Now, I chose that population because there's not a lot of research on them, as well as most of us know they're really important, and the research shows that they're maybe not too knowledgeable about APE. So what I did is I created 3 different podcasts. They're a little bit different than these podcasts. They're validated, where I had experts look at them, and then I also put video to them. And so each one was given to them, and they took, also validated a test, and they took a pre-test, a post-test, and a retention test, as well as they took surveys on like how much they liked the podcast. Now, there was a significant difference and increase from their pre to post test from listening to the podcast. However, although I had a lot of people drop out from their retention test, their retention test actually went down from their pre-test, which was surprising. And I had 29 participants in all, and 21 only took the retention test. So I had a pretty big drop off. However, what I can say, though, I think is even in the pre-test and post-test, although there was an increase, the scores on that test were less than 50%, which is kind of scary. It was consistently shown, basically, that this group of administrators had a really low understanding of APE. So that's a little problematic. And another finding was that they did seem to really enjoy the podcast and thought they were a cool professional development tool. They ranked those really high. More specifically, they said that they felt like They really liked the flexibility of using a podcast to learn, and they thought that the content was well organized. Although a lot of them did think that, that they would like to have like a PowerPoint that would go along with it, which I think is interesting, and something that I would like to do in the future. Maybe not with these podcasts, because I see these podcasts as more conversational and informal, but I think there's also types of podcasts that we can create that are more for like learning a very specific thing, which this podcast has been a lot more like open-ended, free-flowing of thoughts and conversation and perspectives. One other thing is that in my podcast, there was like an issue with, I had to run it a little bit different. So it wasn't on iTunes or Stitcher like this one is. It was on Psych Data, and Psych Data didn't let them re-listen to the podcast as many times as they want. So I don't know if many people are listening to this podcast more than once, but that's a big positive of using podcasts, that you can listen to it over and over again. So that was a big issue with mine as well. So this is one of the first investigations to look at basically the knowledge of special ed administrators with regard to APE. This is definitely the first one to look at podcasting for special ed administrators at all. Those big key findings is just that, this does seem to be maybe an impactful tool. However, it probably needs to be embedded within larger courses, or we need to look at different types of podcasting, kind of maybe like conversational types. And then also, I think a really profound thing for us is to realize, wow, maybe we have some pretty significant gaps in understanding of what APE is. Because I was asking questions about, the law, are we a related or direct service? I was asking questions about inclusion and least restrictive environment. And I was asking questions about like best teaching practices. And consistently on those three topics, they were performing quite poorly. So this is something that we probably really need to look at and say, what are we going to do? And looking at podcasts is maybe one form to try to inform this group, but I think we really need to make a multiple prong approach to try to reach this group. And this might be, something that we need to also look at with other groups like parents and PE teachers, special ed teachers. How much do they really know about us? Do they not think we're as important? Do they not because they don't know much about us, or do they have wrong perceptions about us? This is something I think we really need a lot more information on. So, and some of my recommendations is basically that we need to create more refined professional development for special ed administrators, and embed in these educational leadership programs, we need to embed APE content within that. And so, I'm looking at trying to publish some of this stuff, and that's all part of the dissertation process, is getting done with something and trying to disseminate that information, which is part of what the podcast is trying to disseminate this information. That's really it. I'm in Cedar Falls, Iowa now, and I'm in a whole nother world I've never been in before. It's very green here. It's a decent sized city. I think it's about 150, 160,000 altogether. It's very different, and I'm really excited about this next step in my life and my adventure. So, I hope you all continue listening. And I have an episode or two coming up that are going to be looking at, some different APE teachers, and another one's with another nonprofit that's related to APE. And if you have any topics that you want on the podcast, let me know, because we're always looking to expand and kind of find out, what do we need to still know. Well, with that, this is probably the shortest episode I've done, but we're gonna end on that note. And thank you so much for listening to my journey to getting my dissertation completed, as well as some of my dissertation findings. All right, and a few last things. Please take a look at the blog website that I have, the company blog I have. I will have the presentation uploaded to my blog for the dissertation, as well as I'm going to have a free webinar I did with the Center on Technology and Disability, and I did a webinar, and it was really great on assistive technology and APE. And when I say that, the feedback I got was so cool. I had about 60 people in there, and we had this great discussion. I don't know if that's all captured on the webinar or not. We did a live one, but it's all recorded. So a link to that will also be on my blog. So check it out.